wish that you'd respond back. You're not too much of a texter.
Cool. All right. Annie Leeth, you ready to get started?
Ready to go.
Well, I'm excited you're here today. When I met you at Ashby's Untitled Soiree like a month ago, shout out to Ash, it felt like we were ships in the night. There'd been so many instances where I'd even seen you around town, but I was like, you were just far enough that I didn't want to say, hey, you were like working at the 40 watt or whatever. And then finally we got to meet and I got to see you play at Ash's Soiree, which was awesome. I love your live setup.
Same to you.
Thank you. I'm very curious about how you arrived at the setup that you have arrived at, because it's certainly not a traditional live band or even live solo act. So if you don't mind maybe explaining, not a whole rig rundown, but just basically what you end up doing. And I'm also curious if there was a moment in time when you saw someone else do something similar and you were like, oh, I guess I don't have to just play guitar and sing. Like I can actually create worlds with pedals and looping and things like that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, so the first answer is really boring. That I always have had.
There's a lot of gearheads who would love this though.
Well, it's worse than that. It's that I can't. I've always had a lot of trouble playing and singing at the same time. Mm-hmm. So, and I've been trying to get better at it now. But when I first started looping, it was literally because of that. It was like I can't. I've had guitars before, and I don't I don't know, something. There's a disconnect in my brain where I have to be able to do one and then another for the most of the time, unless I'm doing like background vocals or something. But so that's how it started, mixed with at the music composition program at UGA. They showed us a lot of like Laurie Anderson and some like Kishibashi stuff. And
yeah, Kishibashi for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it was a lot of experimental use of violin, and a lot of it, I mean, with Laurie Anderson stuff, like tape looping. And
I don't think I know Laurie Anderson.
Oh, she's cool. You probably, the one song of hers that everyone knows is at the end of the Black Mirror Choose Your Own Adventure episode.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Oh Superman by her. It's like, that's the one that is most well known, but she's great. But basically it's just two loopers that are going at this point. I have a sampler and like one of the SP404s, and then the RC30 is my violin and vocal looper, and I've just had that since high school, and it hasn't crapped out on me yet. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's sturdy.
So how long have you been doing the setup? For like 5 years or so?
5 years with the violin pedal. I got the 404 maybe like 2 years ago, mm-hmm. and it kind of changed everything, because whenever I tried to translate my produced stuff into a live setting, it was like impossible to do without that. And so once I got it, I was like, oh, I can actually perform live now and make it sound like the record.
So I'm guessing you probably started more recording in a studio setting before you played live.
Yeah, for a while. Actually, my friend Hada, who was at UGA as well, she did these experimental nights at Go Bar, and just kind of invited some of the performers out to just do whatever. And I hadn't played a solo set before then, and it was really ambient at the beginning. It was just a lot of
your stuff was ambient. Okay.
Super ambient. But I mean, that's what first got me doing live stuff and being on stage. Mm-hmm. And
how do you feel like your live act has changed over the years? Obviously, you just said kind of started very ambient. When did you start adding vocals and maybe more pop elements into it?
Probably two albums ago. The last full album was the first time that it was a whole record that had lyrics. Like everything before then was maybe like a sentence, and it was a lot of more instrumental stuff. And part of that was because I wasn't really comfortable with like my singing voice yet. And
A Tale as Old as Time.
Yeah, so it was just like avoid.
Right.
Like I don't know how to write lyrics.
It's scary at first. I mean, singing alone is terrifying, let alone writing lyrics that can be vulnerable that you are now having to share with strangers in front of you.
Totally.
You know? So what made you take that leap?
I think I was just kind of sick of having my music not sound like the music that I enjoy listening to.
Yeah.
So it was like I would listen back to some of the older stuff and be like, if I don't want to listen to this, like why would I expect anyone else to, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's outliers, you know. I have some friends that enjoy the older stuff as kind of more of a calming, you know, like I'm doing homework to this type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was
Chill
definitely
beats to study.
Yeah,
Lo-fi chill beats to study.
very much.
Right.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So what were some of the songs back then that you feel like maybe had some of the DNA that was going to sprout into these newer pop type songs, like on the new album Crush, not Crush, Charge. I was thinking of this other album called Everybody's Crushed by Water From Your Eyes. Have you ever heard of them?
Yes, yeah, they just played at CNA, right?
Yeah, did you see it?
I know, I wish. I was in Atlanta.
Oh, it's crazy.
It seemed
like
awesome. It was really good, yeah.
Yes, but Charge, the new album, which came out August 10th, is awesome. But yeah, how did you, do you feel like it was a natural progression between these ambient tracks to get to, you know, more pop-centered songs?
Yeah, I think that there's a few songs on older albums that kind of have like an attempt, you know, but I think it's kind of grown with like my ability to produce. Like I think that back when I first started, I also didn't really know my way around like Logic or Pro Tools in the way that I do now, and so I think it's kind of helped with workflow to just be able to quickly get down ideas and not feel like frustrated with any of the tech anymore or anything. So that's been a huge help. Like, but yeah, it's definitely like some diet moments and some old stuff for sure.
With the new stuff, with more like pop leanings, do you feel like you have a different, maybe not perspective, but approach to those songs compared to the way you were making your previous ones?
Definitely, yeah. I think now it's more like it's a lot more structured. Like I know that I'm making a hook, versus before it was kind of like, this seems like, I mean, like really early on there wasn't even a click happening or anything, so
really?
It was kind of just like, this feels right here.
Whoa.
And a lot of long fades and stuff. Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely a lot more structured, which I enjoy too, because I'm like not stressed out about what's happening, you know, in the session.
Interesting. So you like a more free, don't worry about the tempo.
Yeah, it used to be, for sure. I mean, well, I don't know if I didn't worry about it. I think I just didn't know how to control any of it.
Yeah.
And because now it's definitely a lot of like quantization and, I mean, like getting sounds, but then like making sure that everything is like super gridded. And yeah, it makes me feel better too, because it makes me feel like I'm organizing in a weird way.
Right. That's interesting, because I feel like there's a lot of people that could have the opposite mentality of like needing it to be perfectly aligned and perfectly gridded, as opposed to maybe a more free flowy ambient approach like you had before. Do you feel like that's influenced the way you approach rhythms now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, because so a big plugin that I use right now is called Digitalis, and it has a lot of you can feed like anything through it, and it makes all of these crushy sequences, and like a lot of the time what happens is I'll just kind of commit 3 or 4 of these loops with these like just random sounds happening that I think are cool, and then my friend Scotty told me a name for that like they use in like DJ communities. It's called like pancaking or something, but it's like these like 30-minute things. It's way shorter than that when I do it, but it's like just getting little sounds and kind of making that into the pattern from, but so it's kind of chaotic sounds, but then you just find the little things within it. I guess that might be from some of the old stuff a little bit.
Pancaking.
Yeah, that might
Something
be wrong.
like that. Waffling.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Some breakfast food.
Some sort of food, I think.
That's interesting. Whoa, I've never heard of that.
It's weird, yeah.
Do you take inspiration from DJ sets at all?
Yeah. I think I've always really, the next thing that I want to try to get good at is transitioning between songs. I've always really admired that about like a live DJ, how they can do that.
I feel like your songs really like would allow for that too.
I hope so. Maybe someday. It's way harder than I thought it would be. Like I was practicing with Mason, and it was like,
especially if they're in like different keys and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's like way above my pay grade. I have no idea how to weave those in together.
Well, me neither. So that makes sense.
Well, let me know if you figure it out. But yeah, I'm stoked to get into the album. I love all the tracks. Intro is sick. The intro going into the next song is like perfect. Did you write that as one song and then you cut it, or was it all like, was that intro always going to be exactly what it was?
I made them separately, and then
My Fears. That's right. That's the second one. Okay.
It was definitely kind of more of a mastering thought, but I definitely wanted to go for the just like stark transition at the end. But no, I mean, it was always going to end, the first song was always going to end like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you had that planned, ready to go. Do you have any songs on here that stick out to you now? Because I know it came out August 10th, so it's been almost 3 weeks since it's been out, and I feel like there is a strange period of time like right after you put it out where it's almost like you disassociate from it, at least in my experience.
Totally.
So looking back on it now 3 weeks later, what are your thoughts on the album and maybe some particular songs that you listen back to now and you're like, yeah, that one like feels special to me still?
I always really liked the production on I'm trying to remember what I ended up naming it on Cut Ties.
yeah
Because just that the vocal production on it, I haven't been able to get anything to that level since then, and I honestly need to open up the session again because I don't really remember what happened. Do this? Yeah, I know, literally, like what happened here. But that one thing that I was kind of surprised by, though, the song Max, I almost didn't put on it because I was...
Really? That's maybe my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
See, and that's like few people have told me that. And it's been surprising to me because all I could hear of it when I was listening back to the masters, like after I'd already sent everything in, was that like I could just tell that my voice was kind of hoarse and it was annoying me every time I listened back to it. But now I'm like, maybe I should just like listen like separately from like being in mixing mode and just like sit back for once because it was kind of a pleasant surprise.
It's also so hard to separate yourself from something like that, especially your own voice. I mean, how many people just can't stand their own voice? They hear it back and they're like, no, please. But to everyone else, it's just your voice. They don't have that closeness to it the way that you have to your own. So was it just like whatever, let's see what happens, let's put it out, or did you kind of come around to it?
It was kind of, the reason why I stuck with it was because the rest of the album felt unbalanced, like dark to light, and I was like, well, here's this one, like this will like at least make it somewhat even, you know, even if it's kind of like a little bit nostalgic sounding, like it's not just like weird glitchy grit, so
right. You said you liked the vocal production on it. I feel like the vocal production always stood out to me on this album when listening to it, was like specifically the way you were producing your vocals. Do you have a like a bit of a North Star of like this artist really knows what they're doing with vocal production, or just certain techniques that you really try to implement? Like, what was the process of doing these vocal takes, or the production around it for this album?
Totally. So I have kind of a basic answer, but
That's fine.
But I really like Billie Eilish's production.
Yeah.
I like her vocal production a lot, and I remember seeing a video at one point where Phineas like opened one of the Logic sessions, and it was just like a shit ton of vocal stacks. And so it's like, ever since I saw that, I've just been layering a bunch of lead vocals. Like everything has like at least 3 vocals on it.
Really?
Yeah, and that kind of like fixed the kind of vocal dysphoria thing for me. I was like, if I just keep adding myself, eventually it sounds like chorus.
Yeah, for sure. That's funny, because I've tried to, like, when I was starting to produce my own stuff, I kind of don't do it as much anymore. I let people who are much more talented at that do it for me now. But when I was doing it, I would always try to do the same thing. Like, just, if I don't know what to do, just do it again and layer it, and it sounds better. But now I'm trying to like strip it back more. But that's interesting that you found a way to make that feel, because it doesn't feel like it's too much. You know what I mean? I didn't notice that it was like multiple takes or tracks, I guess. But that's interesting. Is there, none of them have just one vocal track?
For a whole song, no. All of them have at least 2 going throughout. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's I'm trying to think now if that's, maybe one on the last album has 1.
Gotcha. Do you think you would ever do one, like, do you think you'd ever do like a really stripped back song, like maybe just guitar and vocals or something like that?
I would need to be better at guitar first.
That's fair.
But it would, I mean, I think that part of it too is that I really like the sound of full production stuff, and I feel like whenever, even in mixing too, or whenever I'm recording someone, if the track itself is already super dense and kind of poppy sounding, it's kind of difficult to have a single vocal fighting all of that. So I mean, some might call it a crutch, but it kind of seems to help bring everything together into the same like world.
Yeah, well, it's also, your sound. It's what you subjectively like. That's what comes through.
Sure, yeah.
It's also interesting going back a little bit to where you were saying how the live setup kind of sprung from the fact that you don't like to play and sing at the same time. It's just difficult. But it is interesting how these things that maybe at first can feel like a negative, or what's the word? Maybe a quote unquote weakness.
Sure, yeah.
Actually ends up being the catalyst for finding out different and unique ways to showcase something or create something that anybody else who just knows, who can like easily play guitar and sing, would just do it that way. But how many times have we all heard that?
Sure, yeah.
So you end up creating new avenues to explore based off of something that originally you maybe thought was a weakness, and it ends up turning into a strength.
I appreciate that. That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Do you have a favorite part of the creative process? Like anything where you get really lost in like the moment?
I think, well, okay, so I can always tell that I need, and I've talked to my friend Jamori, is a really great producer in Atlanta. We have a mutual understanding of the little lull that happens when you're making something, when you want to go get food. And then if you push through that part, then like the production of the song's probably going to be done like an hour later.
Yeah. But
it's like there's this lull point and it's kind of the feeling of once you've gotten through that and you just like the song is pretty close to done. That's probably my favorite part because it's like, yes, I beat it.
So getting past, there's like that feeling where I could call it not a day, but like call a break right here. But if you
Yeah.
push through it, you just end up getting to that point that
Yeah.
you've been. That's interesting. I'll have to do that next time I'm hungry. Just not eat.
Well, yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's like great advice, but it's always at like, it's never at like a mealtime or anything. It's always
Right.
like, I know in my mind that I'm like just doing this to stall. You
Right.
know? Like,
Yeah, of course. I was gonna say, do you feel like it's your mind being like, you should take a break because it's getting hard now?
yeah.
You know?
Yes, exactly. Especially if it's like, if I have cheese and crackers at my house and I suddenly just want to eat a bunch of cheese and crackers, then I'm like,
It's like Wallace and Gromit shit.
Yeah.
Eating cheese and crackers. You ever watch
literally.
that?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay, I
but-
was like, whoa, I hope that wasn't a weird reference. I don't know what made me think of that. They like go to the moon to get the best cheese and crackers.
Totally, I need to rewatch that now.
For real.
Chicken Run.
Chicken Run, oh my god. Yeah, that whole style of animation was everywhere for like 5 years.
It probably looks so freaky now. I haven't looked at it in a long time.
Yeah, I guess it was claymation, right?
Yeah,
Also, Chicken Run is dark as hell.
it is.
That story is like
It is.
pretty fucked up,
It's pretty dark.
especially for children.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't make them like they used to.
Yeah, they don't make them like they used to. But I have a couple specific questions about some little production tricks you did. I'm very curious about in Home Alone, there's this, I can only describe as this hilarious, springy sound that comes up to like transition into like another little part.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know
yeah,
what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I'm very
yeah.
curious, like what that is, what inspired that.
It's like 5 different reversed, sped up things in the track, like all kind of fading in. Yeah, I
Because
never.
it sounds like this mounting anxiety creeping in, and then it's loud, and then it just goes away, and you're like, "Did that even happen?"
Yeah, good. But yeah, no, it's just a bunch of layers. And that's kind of what I'll do a lot during like my production sessions with other people is it takes a second to like, especially if someone else is in the room. I'm like, just like, wait.
Yeah, like, I promise
it.
it's gonna be cool.
I'm committing a bunch of stuff right now, but it's so worth it.
Do you ever have to, because I know you do produce for other people, do you ever have to like comfort them and be like, I know this is gonna be weird at first, but like just trust me, go along with me?
It depends. Well, not. I've been lucky that the people that have chosen to like go like into production world with me are pretty patient. I've had a couple of times during like the mixing process where I can tell that someone like sitting in a room hearing like certain things repeated over and over is starting to stress them out. And I'm like, come back in 30 minutes.
You don't even have to
Come
look
back
at them. You can just feel like, oh, now it's quiet.
Yeah.
I can feel they're staring at the back of my head
No,
right now.
exactly. It's like, just like take a walk. I'll be just 30 minutes. That'll be good. Like,
And it is good for the artist to do that. I've noticed when I'm in that position, I'm like, I should just go get a snack or something
Yeah,
and like
literally.
not have to hear this one thing, like
Yeah.
one vocal thing just be like on loop. Because then you
Yes.
just end up hating it and you're like, I don't want to listen to this anymore.
yes, 100%. Yeah.
So you produce over at Chase Park, right?
Yeah, I'm at Chase Park, and then I have a like a small home studio set up for pre-production and
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
So how'd you get involved in working at Chase Park?
It was my MBUS internship.
Okay.
So the first semester, like junior year, I went there as an intern, and I just kind of like never left.
Awesome.
And we did like kind of had a deal with David that if I went to this recording workshop in Ohio for 6 weeks, it was the same one that he had gone to like a long time ago. That I'd be able to start booking sessions there, and
It's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no regrets, you know.
Yeah, David Barbie's the man. I had him
Totally.
on for an episode maybe like a month and a half ago.
Oh, yeah?
Like, so far, it's been one of the most popular episodes because everyone just wants to like hear from him, and everyone was telling me like, get ready because he will talk, and they weren't lying.
Absorb the knowledge.
Yeah, I was just
Absolutely.
sitting here like a sponge, just gaining it all. What are some of the things when you think of David Barbie, like some lessons that maybe he's taught you, or just from watching him do his thing? What have you learned?
He's really good at like making whatever like human mistakes, whether it be from the band or whoever's like engineering in the studio, like not a big deal. Like he's really good at like calming a crowd and just kind of making it so that at the end of the day everyone's like, well, that went perfectly, you know. And
Right.
I'm kind of
But
like
he knows the things that didn't quite.
yeah,
I gotcha.
yeah, he has a couple of funny stories from when he's like just started out, and like just ways that he had messed up something and then just kind of scooped it up and just didn't even, no one noticed, you know, like
That's impressive.
it truly, yeah. And I'm trying to, you know, ever since like learning some of those stories, I'm like, okay, like you can do this. Like don't you don't tell everyone everything that's happening all the
True.
time.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's good to know when to say something and when to like hold back and just let them be none the wiser.
Totally. Yeah.
Has there been anything with producing other people that you've learned that you take with you into your solo project?
Yeah, it's only happened a couple of times that I've noticed so far, but there are definitely times where like there's a production or like mixing tweak that has like been asked of me that I've ended up just being like, oh, like this does sound better, like and just like there's templates that my friend Z, we just finished his album, and I've just whenever I've been like mixing my stuff or like a couple of sessions since then, there's been a few chains that I'm just like that one,
We're gonna keep that.
yeah, and they're all from.
And by chain you mean like
Just yeah, like mastering chains or like just different auxes that took a while for us to get there, and at times it felt frustrating, but like it came out so much better, and now I'm like, oh, I have that now to use. That's great.
Right.
like thank you for pushing me. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Of course, you're going to naturally pick up on things by working with other people all the time because everybody has a different perspective. And even if you're not quite learning what exactly to do, you can always be learning what exactly not to do.
Totally.
From things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like there's any unexplored creative territory that you'd like to try checking out on some future projects? I know you just released an album, so you might not want to be thinking about a new thing on the way, but
yeah.
for me, when I put out something, it's usually like months, if not like a year after I made it. So there's so much progression in terms of like taste and things you've learned over that time period. So maybe currently where you're at right now, is there maybe a type of sound you're really into right now, or like a technique or anything like that?
Yeah, no, it's funny that you mentioned that, because literally this past like week or 2 weeks since the album has come out, like I've written more than in the rest of the year, just because like it was done like 6 months ago, the last album, and I feel like just because of like like everything that comes with that, you can't really think about the next thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like there was kind of a lot of stuff like pent up from that.
Yeah.
I do. It's funny that you mentioned the guitar stuff though, because I do want to get like a classical guitar and kind of start messing more with actual just acoustic sounds and mixing them in outside of just violin. There was this classical guitar that Dylan was selling that Drew bought for the studio I really like, and I'm just kind of like
Drew
keeping.
Vandenberg?
Yes, yeah, and I'm just kind of like keeping my eye on that store to see
Yeah,
when it
just
comes
like
back in. Yeah.
Taking a look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to get Dylan in here and just talk about guitars for
Straight
an hour.
gear.
Yeah,
for
it
sure.
would be sick. But that's awesome. Yeah, I could definitely see you adding some like classical guitar and things like that. Would you ever put more like acoustic instruments, like a full drum kit or something in there, you think?
Yeah, I think it's there. So I've been working with my friend Mason has been playing percussion with me, and
For the live shows,
for the live shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see that because I've only seen you
Oh,
solo,
yeah.
and I would love to see the duo.
Dude, he's killer. It's kind of the tour ended up the really short tour, but like it ended up being kind of perfect timing because he's on the road a lot, and we kind of were seesawing for a second. So yeah, every show I can get with him on it is great, and definitely like we've talked about having him record on anything in the future. It's just kind of. I haven't recorded drums at my house before. Like, I think that we would have to find it, like, we would probably have to go to Chase Park or something. And it's, but it's a percussion setup. I don't know. I haven't thought enough about it, but I definitely, like, me and Mason been talking about adding some drums for sure. Like,
well, it's cool that you do. Like I've seen the contraption that he has,
Yeah.
and it looks insane.
it's really cool. There's my favorite is this, I forget what it's called, but it's a tom with no like wood around it.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's called like a rototom or something.
Where it's just like the drum head.
It's just the head, and then you mic it like a kick, and it sounds just like an 808. It's so fun.
Whoa.
So it's kind of helped a lot during the live sets because you don't really know like what's the sample versus not.
Yeah.
But yeah, his setup has been perfect for it.
That's so sick. Yeah, I'll have to catch a duo show at some point. Do you have
Hell
one
yeah.
coming up? I know you just finished this
he
mini tour.
is going back on the road with Snarky Puppy on.
That's right. I forgot. Is he their tech?
Yes,
He's
he's
the-
their drum tech.
Insane.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Has he been doing that a while?
Yes, yeah.
I saw them in 2016 maybe.
Oh, really?
In LA. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
At the UCLA Royce Hall. It was one of the most intelligent concerts I've ever
Yeah.
seen. You're just
No,
like,
they're
how are all these
crazy.
people doing this right now? This is
Yeah.
crazy.
No, they're very like. I mean, he's told me time or about stories where there's one that he has that's crazy where the I guess the beater on this kick just like bent during one of the songs, and he saw what was wrong, and he ran out like with a new one, but like just had to like punch the rhythm while he was like fixing it for like a measure. And it's just like, yeah,
That's like NASCAR when the guys have to like do the tires really quickly before they go up. That's
You have
wild.
to like know the rhythm of this like crazy Snarky Puppy song, and
Yeah.
while doing
And do
this,
it like
and,
not with your foot. Yeah,
Yeah.
with your hand while the drummer, I'm sure, is still right there playing everything else.
Exactly.
Man, what a high intensity
I
situation.
cannot imagine.
That's why they took him.
Yeah, truly.
So I have to bring up working with Faye Webster
Oh yeah, for
because that's
sure.
so sick. I have so many questions. I mean, you do all the string arrangements for her, right?
Yes. Yeah,
How did you
yeah.
guys get connected?
Through Drew Vandenberg, actually. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I had been probably working with Drew for like 6 months to a year, and he called me in to do some session strings for Atlanta Millionaires Club, and it's kind of like I did strings for her stuff since then, and then it actually worked out perfectly because when I moved back to Athens, I wasn't on like a full-time studio job anymore. That was when she needed a touring keyboardist, and I mean it turned into keys and strings. And so like I just got to go on the road like 2 months after moving back.
Of course.
It was great. It was like
2 months after you sign a lease.
Yeah.
That's
Totally.
awesome. I mean, that's a pretty good reason not to be here, you know,
Yeah.
touring with Faye.
It's a perfect home base though. Like to come back, I can't imagine if I still lived in Atlanta, like having to be like in a city after being on the road. I think I'd freak out.
What's been some of like the coolest parts of touring with her?
I mean, there's a lot. I think her fan base is so loyal. Like just seeing the faces of people while you're on that stage is like it definitely like took some getting used to. The best one though was during the orchestra show at Variety, and I was just playing violin for that one. But so I mean during rests and stuff, I was just kind of like getting to look around, and there was just these two girls that were just like bawling their eyes out in the like little like in the backsplash of this light, and it was just like
beautiful.
Like, okay, don't look at them, you're gonna cry. Don't like,
That's awesome. That's so cool. Sometimes you get so used to just playing, to 13 people who don't know who you are that you're just like, oh wow, yeah, people really get moved by this stuff.
Totally.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool to watch.
I'm curious about string arrangements in general, but maybe specifically with Faye. When you're working together, what do you feel like is really necessary when it comes to like communicating for her to maybe communicate what she wants and for you to understand that and translate it?
Yeah, well, so it's kind of changed over time because the last two records, I was kind of just coming in for a day, and they already had a melody in mind, and so it was just kind of like playing back what was already in Faye and Drew's heads, and this last one was a little bit different because there was a couple of sessions where I was playing violin in person, but then afterwards I was just recording at home. So that was kind of a little bit more, I was being told where like she heard the placement of stuff and just kind of going from there. If there was ever a part that I was supposed to double, then I would be told about that. But it actually was a lot easier after playing with her live for this long to just kind of know what kind of textures she prefers, you know? So
of course.
It definitely, even though it was more intensive than the past records, it felt like way less stressful. So
maybe because you just know her a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Just knowing like what the what the goal is,
Right. Yeah. What are some of the challenges of having to navigate what an artist wants in a string arrangement?
Well, it's funny, I've kind of found just a pattern to it at this point. Unless people want fiddle, and I am not good at that.
Some devil went down to Georgia.
Not meant for that type. I'm not a shredder.
Mm-hmm.
There are many people that would be way better at that job than me, so I point them in their direction.
Very different artistic directions. Yeah,
totally. No, it's kind of, it's a lot of just listening to what the track already sounds like and just responding to that, because most of the time once you've gotten like the placement, like I'll normally just like kind of location mark where I think strings should go, and then start with the chorus, and then everything kind of tends to go off of whatever the chorus melody tends to be, and
so
it sounds
finding
kind of
one
disjointed.
point where you're like, let's figure this point out, and then everything else sort of falls into place.
Yeah, and definitely just trying to keep whatever idea you have like consistent throughout is a big thing too. 'Cause you don't want to just be like, there's so many random like places where strings show up, and it's like you don't want to. It's already like random placement. You don't want to make it random notes.
You don't want to make it more random.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to ask you to do string arrangement for them, they've never done it before, never had strings, like what would you say? Okay, like this is how you should approach it. This is kind of what you should think about. You know, do I want this? Do I want that? Like, what should they think about before you start working with them?
Well, I mean, honestly, a lot of the time people just, if that's the case, they just kind of like send it to me, and then there's like, do it.
Do what you want to do,
and it normally ends up fine. If they have a specific idea in mind but haven't worked with a string player before, I normally kind of just try to get people to send me references to any like string stuff that they like the arrangements of, and that ends up being the main thing that I use. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Reference tracks always help.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in general, in your opinion, what do you feel like makes a great arrangement?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like just listening to what the song wants, you know, because you can make, I don't know, you can make sections like as big as you want, but if it's a really delicate track, then it'll sound like too much. And
right.
Just kind of listening to the number of layers that you think are necessary is a big thing. And most of the time people seem to not want string stuff to be too busy, especially just in the genres that I end up working in. It's kind of more like they want what they could have played on a
different
piano,
instrument.
you know,
Yeah.
like so.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just kind of like just something to lay a floor down or something.
Right.
You know?
In your top of the head, what's like a couple of the best or your favorite string arrangements and songs?
Well, I mean, I'm a huge Andrew Bird fan,
Okay.
so yeah, I mean,
I need to get
a lot
into
of stuff that he's done. Oh, he's great.
There's like a couple songs here and there that I like, but I couldn't even tell you the names of them.
Yeah.
Did he do my finest work or something?
My finest work, yeah.
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 So I know that one song and I think it's great, but I've just totally derailed my own question.
Yeah, no.
I was just wondering what would be like a good starting point for him, for me to get into him.
I think the album's called Capsized. It's a white album with I think there's a bird on it.
A bird.
But it's whichever album has like Truth Lies Low.
Okay.
And the song Capsized in it. That album I listened to so much when I was in school, just like walking around campus. It was very like, I don't know, it has string stuff in it, but it's a lot of really cool jazzy chords and stuff, and yeah, it's just fun to listen to.
So is there a specific song of his that made you think, oh, this is like what a great arrangement is? Or is it just kind of the way he handles it?
Well, from a different album, the cover that I play a lot of his is called Behind the Valley of the Three White Horses, and it's a looping song. But I mean, that's always been the one that stuck with me the most, just because it's all very live, and you can just tell that the way that he works is just, it seems like he's played, I mean, I know he's played for so long that it's very, very like natural, and he's just like strumming in a way that I don't understand how he does it, you
Interesting.
know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's less because of the chords and more just like the textures that his way of playing kind of brings up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to check it out.
You'd like it, I think.
Hell yeah. Well, you want to take this over the last 5? Or just ask you 5 quick questions
All
and
right,
we'll
let's
be
do
done.
it. Sure.
Before we do it, I've been so bad about this lately. I ask the guests to pick out an album and then I don't even bring it up. But I have to because it's my favorite band ever, Radiohead. You picked OK Computer. You didn't even hesitate. You looked in my collection of maybe almost 100 records. You saw this in like 2 seconds and you picked it. So clearly you really gravitated towards it. But I'm curious why OK Computer, because I have a couple of Radiohead albums.
Oh, yeah. No, well, I mean, so this is like my favorite one by far. And it was also kind of the first full album of theirs that I listened to, because a lot of people in school were recommending it, and a lot of the like the electronics I I think I subconsciously bring or try to bring in my stuff. But yeah, I just, that wasn't an album that I listened to for like probably like 6 months straight. And then it's like one of those things where the National kind of does the same thing to me, where you listen to it over and over again, and then you're like, why do I feel this way? And then you just,
why am I so angsty?
yeah.
Why do I feel like everyone's out to get me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel that. And Radiohead can definitely do that to you. Do you have a favorite song on this one? Or top three?
I think Paranoid Android is my favorite.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that for the first time and being like, what is this? Because I only knew Creep and and like,
That's a good first one.
yeah, Creep. I mean, of course, that's the first one most people hear. And then I think from there, I heard Karma Police and Lotus Flower from King of Limbs. And I was like, oh, so this is Radiohead.
Yeah.
And then I heard Paranoid Android. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Which that propelled me into them.
Karma Police is a good rain song.
Yeah, a good rain song, like when it's raining.
Like just kind of
for
drizzly
sure.
and you're driving.
That
It's
outro.
Like, yeah.
If I could write an outro like that, I'd be like, I'd be hanging up my hat. Yeah. That was so crazy when I heard like the story of it too. Like they were, recording in this haunted mansion.
I do not know about this.
Yeah, they recorded the album somewhere in England. I don't know.
Okay.
That's like, I don't know if it was a castle or if it was just like a giant mansion, basically, but it was supposedly haunted. And in the middle of the night, I think Tom and the Nigel Godrich, the producer, like they couldn't figure out the outro, or they had a different outro for that song.
Yeah.
And then they like basically just scrapped it while the rest of the band was sleeping, and then did the outro that we know now, that kind of like climactic thing. There's like a word for it where it's like terminally climactic. Is that a word?
I mean,
is that a term?
It is now. If it wasn't
It is
before,
now,
it makes sense for that.
I think I heard it from this other guy who's a huge music nerd. But yeah, that song's amazing. Do you have a song that you could get rid of if you had to pick one?
Oh, I can't do that.
You got not one? You
I can't do that. I like, yeah, no.
not Fitter Happier? Because
Okay.
that's the right answer.
It's a
necessary interlude.
It is interesting. I think it's a good, like,
Gotta take a look at the back of this.
yeah. It's definitely off-putting, like, for the rest of the record, but I kind of like that type of music.
I mean, it does. I see how it serves a purpose.
Yeah.
But I'm actually gonna take that back. I think Climbing Up the Walls can go.
Okay.
Even though at one point I used to say that was like my favorite. Yeah, take a look. I used to say that was my favorite, and I feel like maybe I was just really angsty 17-year-old for a moment.
I forgot about No Surprises.
No Surprises.
I'm gonna listen to
amazing.
This again. There's exit music. I will say
it.
Every time I listen to it, I think of the end of the Leonardo DiCaprio Romeo and Juliet.
I forgot that's in that.
It's not their fault, but
Right. That's a good point. It's not their fault. But yeah, I do agree. That one surprisingly has lost some shine for me. Maybe it's because of a similar thing. It's kind of been
used a lot.
Yeah, and it's not even that it's overplayed. It's just like very specific to me. It feels like, well, it's called exit music for a film. So it feels like it's for a film. It doesn't feel like part of an album, but maybe I think I'm just too close to it now. But like I said, Radiohead's my favorite band, so like I feel like I can say these things.
Sure, yeah.
And they're amazing. But anyway, yeah, you want to take it over to the last five? I feel like we've properly discussed OK Computer. So for the last five, you can just go ahead, kind of pick a little piece of paper out of this bowl. Yeah. Everyone loves this. People are a sucker for this. I used to just ask the question.
Yeah.
This is so much cooler.
All right. Do you read it or do I?
No, you can read it.
Okay. Dream artist / producer to work with. Okay, that's hard. Okay, probably Charlie XCX.
Whoa, okay.
Really,
Sick.
and her producer, I'm completely blanking on his name right now, but a lot of the Glitch stuff from the last album, I was listening to his stuff.
Cool.
I wish I could remember his name right now, but yeah.
You can look it up later. Charlie XCX, that's a great one.
Do I just rapid fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they don't have, I used to call it the Fast Five, and then we would take like 40 minutes to go through all of them. So it doesn't have to be fast.
Perfect album front to back. Okay, my meme one is Hillary Duff Most Wanted Tour.
Whoa. Hillary Duff was
the first concert I went to.
okay. Yeah, sick.
But honestly, like I really like going back to the Andrew Bird album. I mean that's probably like a top one for me.
Which
sure.
one?
The Capsized one. Yeah.
Sick.
I'm pretty sure it's called Capsized.
The one with the white one.
The white one.
Bird.
Yeah, so much better at remembering album art than names, but
I feel that.
unexpected musical influence. Unexpected. Oh, freaking. Unexpected.
Yeah, something that people would be like, "Oh, wow, that's interesting. That you really like that person."
I mean, Ash Nico.
Ash Nico.
Is that unexpected? She's.
I don't know if I know her.
She's super, like she. I don't really know how to describe it. It's definitely like experimental pop.
Okay.
But she like screams a lot and
sick.
And I like her a lot.
Is it ASHE?
ASHNIKKO. Actually, she just put out a new record.
ASHNIKKO.
But it's definitely like really really auto-tuned.
Oh, it's
but
one
she's
word.
Fun though. Like
oh my god, 6 million monthly listeners. I've never heard of her. That's crazy. Sick. Whoa, she's got a look. That's crazy.
Yeah, she's a vibe.
Very interesting. Okay, I don't recognize any of these album covers or anything. Hell yeah, I'm gonna give a listen to this later.
Let me know what you think, because I think it's definitely kind of a
just
like a
based
hit or
off
miss
look,
with
it's reminding me of like Grimes a little bit.
It's okay. I don't know. Grimes, I have never been able to get into.
I haven't really either. I saw her live simply because it was music festival and she was playing between, I think, Father John Misty and Tame Impala.
Okay.
So it was very interesting. Like
that's
all of a sudden, all the Grimes fans coming to the front, and me and my buddy were clearly we did not belong in that crowd, and they were feral for her. They were going crazy, and she brought another artist on who I think was like, I don't know. She was a little person, and they were screaming for the whole song, like just going back and forth, screaming. I was just like, what's happening right now? This is sick. And then we saw Tame Impala, and then Kendrick Lamar was after. It was an insane lineup.
Oh wow, that's sick. That's really cool.
But hell yeah, okay, Ash Nico, I'll be checking her out.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, seriously, let me know.
I will. Yeah.
Even if you hate it, let me know. In the studio or playing live? I'm gonna say studio.
Yeah.
Because I get to go home afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Last one.
And then we've got best album covers. Okay. Let me think. Because honestly, the one that sticks out in my mind a lot is the Merriweather Post Pavilion one.
Ooh, yeah.
It's just I really like that.
That's a great answer.
Because it even does the thing when you're on Spotify or something.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
let's translate
I have that
thing.
one in in the collection over
Oh,
there as
really?
well. Yeah.
Sick.
I think Elijah Johnson picked that
Oh,
when he
really?
came on. Yeah, and I was like,
Very
oh shit,
nice.
what a great choice. That album I was obsessed with.
Really?
When I first really got into it, it was like 2018. I was very late, and I really only knew My Girls.
Yeah.
You know, that was like a nice intro track. But it took me a while to get into it. I think because of the first song, the In the Flowers, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
It's
It's also been a minute with that
right,
one.
yeah. It was just like a slow meander. I mean, it hits, but I like it now. But at the time, I was like, it's a little slow. And then My Girls was great, but I never made it past there. And once I finally got past My Girls, I was like, oh wait, the rest of these are pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I was with My Bloody Valentine's, Loveless as well.
Okay.
I loved the intro track, Only Shallow, like and then after that I was like, this is just weird. It sounds like a vacuum, like the whole thing. And then eventually, like it grew on me, you know. But Merriweather Post Pavilion, great album cover.
It is, yes, and you know, yes. I didn't even see that one, but I'm still glad I picked this one. But
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, and this is also a great album cover as well.
Totally, yeah.
For whatever
absolutely.
reason, it just sticks out to me, and I couldn't tell you what's happening on it. You know,
True.
but it looks sick. Cool. Hey, last five already. That was one of the quickest last fives. You were rapid fire with it.
Fast five.
I do have to put you on the spot though. Did you ever listen to Sparkle Horse?
Oh my God, no, I actually did.
You did?
Yes,
Okay, sick.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I forgot to message you about it, but like,
I
yeah,
was very
no,
curious what you would think about it.
No, it
'Cause-
did. I was very excited because they passed, right? You said. It
Yes,
was like,
yeah. His name is Mark Linkus, I think, and I think he passed away in 2010. So a good bit ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you listen? It was that album, the It's a Wonderful Life. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts? I'm very curious.
It's also good driving music.
Yeah.
I was driving back from Atlanta and I was listening to it.
That's right,
and
yeah.
It's like, okay, that's a good vibe.
It's very chill. What
Yeah.
really made me think about, you know, when I saw your live set and made me think about Sparkle Horse was the, did you have like a specific microphone that's really crunched sound or really
Trucker
distorted? Trucker mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's one particular performance, like a live performance he does with a song that is not on the album I recommended actually, where the whole time he's singing through that thing.
Oh, cool.
And it sounds so sick. But
Next up.
yeah, the way like he experiments with things really, and like textures and like how it's, I don't know, like he's just very creative and unique with his songwriting. It really reminded me of like the way you approach at least the new album, you know?
Oh, well, thanks. I'm honored to be compared. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, he's awesome. But cool. Annie Leeth, thank you for coming on the show. It was awesome to have you. I'm glad we got to chat about the new album Charge, which everybody needs to go listen to right now. Do you have any shows coming up you want to promote?
Yeah, there's a couple. They are the 10th at the Earl and the 21st at Flickr.
Sweet. All right. 10th at the Earl in Atlanta and the 21st in Athens at Flickr. Everybody come hang.
Yeah.
Awesome, Annie. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll be next door.
Thank you again for tuning into the newest episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. Remember, not only can you listen to the episodes on Apple Podcast and Spotify, but you can also watch the episodes on my YouTube channel, which is linked in the description below. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time.